Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into something that perfectly explains why Jimin is at the level he's at, why his performances are so flawless, and why he's considered one of the most dedicated artists in the entire K-pop industry. We're talking about his practice routine and specifically how many hours he actually spends training every single day. And I have to warn you, when you hear these numbers, you're going to be absolutely shocked. This isn't just about working hard, this is about a level of dedication that borders on extreme. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's explore the intense practice schedule that made Jimin into the performer we know today. Let's start by establishing some context about Jimin's background because understanding where he came from makes his work ethic even more impressive. Jimin was the last member to join BTS before their debut, and he had the shortest training period of any member, less than 1 year. Most K-pop idols train for 3, 4, 5 years or even longer before they debut. Jimin had less than 12 months to catch up to members who had been training together for years, to develop his skills to debut-level standards, and to prove that he deserved his spot in the group. That pressure, that urgency, that fear of not being good enough, that's what initially drove Jimin to develop the extreme practice habits that he maintains to this day. During his trainee period, multiple sources and the members themselves have shared that Jimin practiced relentlessly. We're not talking about showing up for scheduled practice sessions and then going home. We're talking about Jimin staying at the practice room long after everyone else had left, sometimes practicing until 3 or 4 in the morning, then showing up again just a few hours later for the next day's training. He would practice dance routines hundreds of times until every single movement was absolutely perfect. He would work on his vocals until his voice was strained. He would analyze his facial expressions and stage presence in mirrors for hours. This wasn't healthy or sustainable, but it shows you the level of dedication we're dealing with. Now let's talk about specific numbers because this is where it gets really shocking. Based on various interviews with BTS members, statements from staff, and behind-the-scenes content over the years, we can piece together a picture of Jimin's typical practice schedule, and it's absolutely intense. During comeback preparation periods, which can last several weeks to months, Jimin has been known to practice anywhere from 12 to 16 hours per day. Let me repeat that: 12 to 16 hours of practice in a single day. That's more than most people work in a week. But it's not just about the total hours. It's about how those hours are structured and what he's actually doing during that time. Jimin doesn't just run through choreography casually. He practices with full intensity, as if he's performing on stage in front of thousands of people. Every run-through is treated like the real thing. He focuses on different aspects in different practice sessions. Sometimes it's about getting the choreography absolutely perfect and synchronized with the other members. Sometimes it's about adding his own style and flair to movements. Sometimes it's about building stamina so he can perform the routine multiple times without getting tired. And sometimes it's about perfecting those tiny details like finger positions and facial expressions that most people wouldn't even notice but that make a huge difference in the overall performance quality. The members, particularly Jungkook and J-Hope, have shared stories about Jimin's practice habits that are both impressive and concerning. They've talked about finding him alone in the practice room in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, practicing the same 8 count of choreography over and over again because he wasn't satisfied with how one specific movement looked. They've mentioned having to physically drag him out of the practice room because he would push himself to the point of exhaustion or injury if they didn't intervene. This level of perfectionism and dedication is what makes Jimin exceptional, but it's also what the members worry about because they know he pushes himself too hard. But it's not just dance practice. Jimin also dedicates significant hours to vocal training. Despite originally joining BTS primarily as a dancer and visual, Jimin has developed into one of the group's strongest vocalists through sheer dedication and countless hours of vocal practice. He works with vocal coaches regularly, practices breathing techniques, works on expanding his range, and spends time perfecting the emotional delivery of songs. When BTS is preparing for an album or a concert, Jimin will spend hours in vocal practice on top of his dance practice, sometimes alternating between the two throughout the day to avoid overtaxing his voice or his body with too much of one type of training. There's also the physical conditioning aspect that people often forget about. To maintain the stamina needed to perform BTS's intense choreography while singing live, Jimin maintains a rigorous fitness routine. This includes cardio training to build endurance, strength training to maintain muscle control and prevent injuries, and flexibility work to execute the fluid movements that are part of his contemporary dance background. When you add up dance practice, vocal practice, and physical conditioning, you start to see how those 12 to 16-hour days during comeback periods are actually filled. Even during non-comeback periods, when you might expect Jimin to take it easier, he still practices significantly more than what most people would consider normal. Various sources and the members have mentioned that Jimin's baseline practice schedule, even when there's no immediate deadline or performance coming up, is still around 6 to 8 hours per day. That's a full workday of practice every single day, even when there's no urgent reason to be practicing that much. This is someone who genuinely cannot stop working on his craft, who always sees room for improvement, who's never satisfied with where he is and always wants to be better. This extreme dedication has obviously paid off in terms of his performance quality and his success, but it's important to acknowledge the cost as well. Jimin has been open about struggling with the physical and mental toll of this level of dedication. He's dealt with injuries from overtraining. He's experienced burnout and exhaustion. He's talked about periods where he couldn't eat or sleep properly because he was so focused on practice and so anxious about not being good enough. The members have expressed concern about his health and well-being, particularly during earlier years when his practice habits were even more extreme than they are now. Over time and with the support of the members and professional guidance, Jimin has reportedly become somewhat better at balancing his dedication with self-care, though he still pushes himself harder than most people would consider healthy or necessary. He's learned that taking care of his body and mind is also part of being a good performer, that sometimes rest is more productive than more practice, and that sustainability matters for a long career. But that drive to practice, that perfectionism, that dedication to his craft, those are still fundamental parts of who Jimin is as an artist. What makes these practice hours even more impressive is that we're not talking about someone who was naturally gifted from the beginning and just maintained their advantage through moderate effort. We're talking about someone who had the shortest training period, who faced doubts about whether he would even make the debut lineup, who had to work harder than everyone else just to catch up, and who turned that initial disadvantage into a strength through sheer force of will and unprecedented dedication. Jimin is proof that talent can be developed through hard work, that dedication can overcome initial disadvantages, and that success comes to those who are willing to put in the hours that others aren't. So there you have it, the shocking truth about Jimin's practice schedule. 12 to 16 hours per day during comeback periods, 6 to 8 hours even during off periods, and a level of intensity and perfectionism during those practice hours that borders on extreme. This is what it takes to be at the top of one of the most competitive industries in the world. This is the price of excellence. This is why Jimin is Jimin. Let me know in the comments if you're inspired or concerned by these numbers, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.